My parents sold me to my dead best friend's grieving father for $500,000, then let him drag me out of work in front of everyone while calling me Mike, his son's name, and showing me his baby pictures. When I begged my mom to take me back, she touched my arm and whispered, "Sweetie, he needs a son, and we need a home." I didn't say a word. I didn't have to, because Mike was about to have his revenge. After my best friend Mike crashed into a pole and died, my world fell apart, and his dad's did too. I still remember the look on his face as he grabbed his son's lifeless body in the hospital, like sand slipping through his fingers. I tried to let them have their alone time together, but after an hour when he refused to let go, I had to use my strength to drag him out of the room, and as his weak hands trembled and grabbed my shoulders like it would bring his son back to life, I thought I was doing the right thing. I had no idea that it would soon be the worst mistake of my life. That night as I lay awake in my bed, wondering if Mike's death was somehow preventable, I got a call. It was his dad telling me he was outside my front door. I swear I thought he was pranking me, but when I opened up there, he was, standing in the rain. Before I could process what was happening, he lunged at me for a hug. "Mike, I've missed you." I froze. Mike was the name of my dead best friend. I didn't know what to do, so I just nodded and asked him to come inside. By this point, he was causing so much noise that my parents woke up and came downstairs. William, best friend's dad, turned to them and said, "Oh, Mike, are these your friends? Nice to meet you. I'm Mike's father." The room was completely silent, and that's when he grabbed my neck and ruffled my hair. Finally, I saw something click in their eyes as they realized what was going on. I expected them to talk some sense into him. Instead, they fed into his grief psychosis. "Nice to see you. Your son is a pleasure to have around," my mom exclaimed. Meanwhile, my dad just shook his hand. I sighed. They walked back upstairs and left me with him, and that's how I ended up spending all night playing Uno with my dead best friend's dad, who was convinced that he was playing with his son. The second he left, I shook my parents awake. "Guys, what the hell? Why didn't you say anything? Be patient with him. He lost his only child," my dad interrupted, his tone cold and assertive. That's when my mom chimed in. "Son, you know that he helped pay for most of your medical bills. The least you can do is to be there for him." Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but the grief made my head so foggy that I barely even knew what day it was, let alone what was right or wrong. So for weeks, I played the part. Whenever William asked me to spend the night at his, I said yes. Whenever he made me lasagna, Mike's favorite meal, that I was allergic to, Elle would eat it anyway and spend the night on the toilet. It made him so happy that it was impossible not to do. Plus, my parents were nonstop gushing over how I was such an amazing and supportive person. In fact, there was only one person who didn't like it, and that was Ashley, my girlfriend at the time, because whenever I had to leave William's house to go see her, he'd try to stop me. It was innocent at first. He'd joke about wanting me all to himself, or how he had to interrogate her about her true intentions. But on the 2-month anniversary of Mike's death, things took a dark turn. I was going to spend the day with her, to grieve and let myself heal. But William insisted that we go to the Griffith Observatory in LA, Mike's favorite hangout spot. His voice was cheery, but his eyes were filled with desperation. I told him no, but that I would spend the night before with him. He nodded with disappointment, but I didn't care. It was hard pretending like I was fine all the time. Well, our date never happened, because the next morning Ashley broke up with me over the phone. "You effing beach, you messed me around, blah blah blah." She cursed at me for 5 minutes straight before blocking me on everything. I honestly thought she had had some sort of mental break, until her friend sent me screenshots saying, "I can't believe you." Turns out someone had made me a Tinder profile. In my bio read, "I have a girlfriend that I hate and I want to cheat on." And of course, her best friend saw it and sent it to her. That's when I finally snapped. I stomped down the stairs to see William in the kitchen making pancakes. "What the F were you thinking?" I asked, my voice flat. He just laughed. "Son, women come and go." "I'm not your son," I interrupted. He dropped his spatula on the floor. "Mike, what are you talking about? Don't be so silly. Let's sit down and eat breakfast together." I kept my face neutral. "William, your son is dead. He died in the bus crash that day, and you haven't seen him since. We can't keep doing this." He looked like a deer caught in headlights. I walked out and never looked back. Update. Me and William kept our distance from each other after that. Last I heard, he self-admitted himself into a mental institution to get help, so I thought everything would be okay. Until my mom walked into my bedroom one day holding a file. In them were adoption papers. "Sweetie," she said, "William made us an offer we couldn't refuse." I stared at the papers in disbelief. My hands shook as I grabbed them from her. The header read, "Legal adoption agreement," with William's name listed as the adopting parent and mine as the adoptee. My stomach churned. $500,000, my mom continued, sitting down on my bed. "He says he needs a son to inherit his late wife's estate before some deadline. Your father and I already signed the preliminary papers." The room spun. I dropped the papers and they scattered across my floor. "You did what?" She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Honey, we didn't have a choice. The medical bills from your surgeries when you were younger, the second mortgage we took out, we're drowning. The bank sent us a foreclosure notice last week." I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. "So you sold me? Like I'm some kind of property?" "It's not like that," she pleaded. "William loves you. He's been like a second father to you anyway. This just makes it official on paper." "He thinks I'm his dead son," I shouted. "And you're taking advantage of a grieving man's mental breakdown for money." My dad appeared in the doorway, his face stern. "Lower your voice. This is happening whether you like it or not. You need this money to save our home." I grabbed my backpack and started shoving clothes into it. "I'm not signing anything. You're being selfish," my dad said. "After everything we've sacrificed for you." I pushed past him and headed for the front door. My mom called after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stay in that house another second. I crashed at my friend Theo's place that night, sleeping on his couch. The next morning, I dragged myself to my job at the electronics store, hoping work would distract me from the mess my life had become. Around noon, my manager Sebastian approached me at the register. "Your dad's here to pick you up for lunch." I frowned. "My dad doesn't pick me up for lunch." Sebastian pointed toward the entrance where William stood, waving enthusiastically. My blood ran cold. "That's not my dad," I said. Sebastian laughed. "Come on, family resemblance is obvious. Take your lunch break." Before I could explain, William was already at the counter. "Ready for our father-son lunch, Mike?" I gritted my teeth. "I'm working." "Nonsense!" William turned to Sebastian. "You don't mind if I borrow my son for an hour, do you?" "Of course not," Sebastian said. "Family comes first." William grabbed my arm and practically dragged me out of the store. In the parking lot, I yanked away from him. "Stop this," I hissed. "I'm not Mike. I'm not your son. You need help." His smile never wavered. "The adoption papers are ready. Your parents are being very cooperative. All we need is your signature." "Never happening," I said, and walked back inside. This became a pattern. Every few days, William would show up at my work. He'd tell my coworkers stories about raising me and bring baby photos of the real Mike, claiming they were me. My coworkers started treating me differently, asking why I was so cold to my loving father. My performance suffered. I was constantly on edge, watching the door. I made mistakes at the register, mixed up inventory. Sebastian pulled me aside after 2 weeks of this. "I'm giving you a warning," he said. "I understand family can be complicated, but you need to focus at work." I tried explaining, but he wouldn't hear it. "That man is clearly your father. Whatever issues you have, work them out on your own time." The warnings piled up. I was one write-up away from being fired when I decided to check my mail at my parents' house while they were at work. The mailbox was empty, which was odd. We always had junk mail at least. I used my key to get inside and found stacks of mail on the kitchen counter, already opened. My hands trembled as I sorted through them. College acceptance letters from 3 schools, scholarship offers, all with deadlines that had already passed. At the bottom of the pile was a note in William's handwriting. "Mike doesn't need college. He has family." I took photos of everything with my phone and left. That night, I called my cousin Vida, who lived across town. "Can I crash with you for a while?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "What's going on?" I gave her the short version. She was horrified and immediately offered her spare room. For 2 weeks, things were quiet. I found a new job at a bookstore where William couldn't find me. I was starting to breathe again. Then Vida got an eviction notice. "This makes no sense," she said, showing me the paper. "I've never missed rent, never had a noise complaint." We went to the landlord's office together. Mr. McCassandra smiled when he saw us. "Ah, you must be the troubled young man William told me about," he said, looking at me. My heart sank. You know William? Wonderful man. He's been helping me with some investments. He's very concerned about you living here, disrupting his daughter's life. I'm his cousin, not his daughter, Vita protested. That's not what he told me, Cassandra said. I'm afraid I need you both out by the end of the month. We tried reasoning with him, but William had gotten there first. Vita was furious, but there was nothing we could do. My parents called that night, saying they needed to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet them for dinner at a restaurant. Public place, I figured. Safe. I should have known better. I arrived to find not just my parents, but William and a woman in a suit sitting at a large table in a private dining room. Sit down, my dad said. The woman introduced herself as a notary. She pushed papers across the table. The adoption documents. Just sign them, my mom begged. You can change it later. We just need the money now to save the house. This is insane, I said, standing up. William pulled out his phone. I've been recording our conversations. Would you like to hear how unstable you sound? He played a clip. It was my voice, but chopped and edited. Words rearranged to make me sound paranoid, delusional. He's not. My dad, I'm Mike. Dead. Hospital. I have hours of these, William said calmly. If you don't sign, I'll have to file for conservatorship. For your own safety, of course. My parents looked uncomfortable, but didn't intervene. They needed that money. I grabbed the papers and ran out. Behind me, William called. I'll give you time to think it over. That night, I broke into William's house. I still had the spare key from when I used to stay over. I needed evidence of what he was doing. His study was unlocked. On his desk were printouts of my social media, photos of me at work, at Vita's place. He'd been tracking me. In the drawer, I found Mike's journal. The real Mike, my best friend. I sat on the floor and read by flashlight. The entries from before his death made my chest tight. Dad's getting worse. Controlling everything. Can't breathe. Planning to move out after graduation. Haven't told him yet. He'll lose it. Caught Dad going through my phone again. Changed all my passwords. He says it's because he loves me, but it feels like a prison. Accepted to college out of state. Dad doesn't know. Going to wait until the last minute to tell him. Need to get away. The last entry was the day before he died. Tomorrow I'm telling Dad I'm leaving. Whatever happens, I need my freedom. I took photos of every page. Then I noticed something else in the drawer. Contact information from Mike's aunt on his mother's side. Mike had mentioned her once, but said his dad didn't let him see that side of the family. The next morning I called her. Cassandra was shocked to hear from me, but not surprised by what I told her. William drove a wedge between Mike and our family, she said. Told Mike we were toxic. Manipulated every interaction. We tried to stay in touch, but William made it impossible. I need help, I said. You've got it, she promised. Cassandra knew a paralegal named Vict who agreed to help pro bono. We spent a week gathering evidence. The forged Tinder profile, the intercepted mail, the harassment at work. Vict helped us file for a restraining order. The hearing was set for the following Monday. I was terrified, but knew it was my only shot at freedom. William showed up with a lawyer and his edited recordings. He played them for the judge, painting me as unstable and in need of help. Then Vict presented our evidence. The unedited recordings pulled from William's cloud storage that he didn't know we had access to. Mike's journal entries, testimony from my coworkers about the disruption, the intercepted mail. The judge's face grew stern as she reviewed everything. She granted the restraining order immediately and referred William's case to Adult Protective Services. The adoption papers are null and void due to clear evidence of coercion and fraud, she stated. William's face crumbled. For the first time since Mike's death, he looked lucid and devastated. Outside the courthouse, my parents approached me. They looked smaller somehow. We're sorry, my mom whispered. We were so desperate, we didn't see what we were doing to you. We'll figure out the debt another way, my dad added, with a real financial counselor. I nodded, but couldn't bring myself to forgive them yet. That would take time. Cassandra put her hand on my shoulder. Mike would be proud of you for standing up to him. A month later, I heard William had voluntarily entered intensive therapy. I made sure Mike's journal reached him there. He deserved to know how his son really felt, even if it hurt. I reapplied to colleges with letters explaining the situation. Most were understanding. I also started a scholarship fund in Mike's name for students who'd lost friends to accidents. It felt like the right way to honor him. Standing at Mike's grave on the anniversary of his death, I finally felt like I could breathe again. I'd lost my best friend, nearly lost myself, but somehow found my way back. I'm sorry you never got your freedom, I whispered to the headstone. But I got mine, for both of us. The cemetery groundskeeper nodded at me as I walked back to my car. I thought the worst was behind me. William was getting help. My parents were working with financial counselors, and I'd finally reclaimed my life. But grief has a way of twisting people in unexpected ways. 3 days later, I was stocking shelves at the bookstore when my coworker Theo tapped my shoulder. Someone's asking for you up front. My stomach dropped. Had William violated the restraining order already? But when I reached the counter, I found a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair. She looked familiar somehow. You must be Mike's friend, she said softly. I'm Patricia, William's sister. I tensed, ready to call security, but she raised her hands peacefully. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to thank you. Thank me? For getting William help. Our family's been trying for months, but he wouldn't listen to us. After Mike died, he cut everyone off. We were so worried. I relaxed slightly. Patricia seemed genuine, and her concern appeared real. We talked for a few minutes about William's progress in therapy. She mentioned visiting him regularly and how the doctors were optimistic about his recovery. Would you consider visiting him? She asked suddenly. The doctors think it might help if he could apologize to you directly. I hesitated. The restraining order was still active, and I wasn't sure I was ready to face William again. Patricia must have seen my reluctance. Think about it, she said, handing me her card. No pressure. Just know that our whole family is grateful for what you did. After she left, I couldn't focus on work. Part of me wanted to help William's recovery, but another part remembered the fear and manipulation. I decided to wait and see how I felt in a few weeks. That evening, I got home to find a package on my doorstep. No return address, just my name written in neat handwriting. Inside was a photo album filled with pictures of Mike and me from high school. Basketball games, study sessions. That time we went camping and got lost for 6 hours. At the back was a note, thought you should have these. Mike would want you to. P. I spent hours going through the photos, laughing and crying at the memories. It felt like a peace offering, a way to separate Mike's memory from William's breakdown. I texted Patricia a simple thank you and went to bed feeling lighter than I had in months. The next morning, my mom called. Her voice sounded strange, almost rehearsed. Sweetie, we have wonderful news. A donor came forward to help with our debts. Anonymous, but they're paying off the second mortgage. That's amazing, I said, though something felt off. Do you have any idea who? No, but we're not questioning it. This saves our house. We can finally breathe again. I was happy for them, truly, but the timing seemed suspicious. Still, I pushed the thought aside. Good things could happen without ulterior motives, right? At work, Theo mentioned seeing Patricia around town several times. She's been asking people about you. Says she's writing a book about grief and recovery. Wants to interview your friends and family. A chill ran down my spine. She's doing what? Yeah, she talked to Sebastian yesterday. Asked all about how William's visits affected your work performance. Seemed really interested in the details. I called Patricia immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and cheerful. I'm not comfortable with you interviewing people about me, I said firmly. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have asked first. I'm just trying to understand the full impact of William's breakdown. For the family, you know. We want to make sure nothing like this happens again. Her explanation sounded reasonable, but something felt wrong. I asked her to stop, and she agreed readily. Too readily, maybe. Over the next week, small things started happening. My car tires were slightly deflated one morning. Not slashed, just low enough to make driving feel off. The bookstore's security camera footage from the night before showed nothing unusual. Then my laptop started acting strangely. Files moved around, passwords changed. The IT guy at the library said it looked like someone had remote access, but he couldn't trace how. I changed all my passwords and enabled two-factor authentication on everything. My cousin Vita called, upset. Someone reported me to my nursing school, said I was letting unauthorized people stay in my apartment. I had to meet with the dean and explain the whole situation with you and William. I'm so sorry, I said, guilt washing over me. This is my fault. It's not your fault, she insisted. But who would do this? William's in treatment, right? That's when it clicked. Patricia. She'd been gathering information, not for a book, but for something else. I called Cassandra, Mike's aunt, who'd helped me before. Patricia's always been protective of William, Cassandra said carefully. When their parents died, she practically raised him. She never approved of Mike getting close to his mother's family, thought we were a bad influence. You think she's behind the anonymous donation to my parents? Wouldn't surprise me. Patricia inherited their parents' money. She's got resources and she's smart. Be careful. I started documenting everything. The deflated tires, the computer issues, the report to Vita's school. But without proof linking it to Patricia, I couldn't do anything legally. Then she escalated. I was closing the bookstore alone one night when the lights went out. The backup generator should have kicked in, but nothing happened. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight and made my way to the front door. It wouldn't budge. The electronic locks had engaged when the power cut. My phone had no signal. The landline was dead. I was trapped. I tried not to panic. Someone would notice, right? But it was past 11, and the street outside was empty. I attempted to break the front window with a chair, but the safety glass just cracked without shattering. Hours passed. My phone battery died. I huddled behind the counter, wondering if this was Patricia's plan all along. Make me disappear. Claim I had a breakdown like William. Who would believe me over a grieving aunt trying to protect her family? Around 3 a.m., I heard voices outside. Police flashlights swept through the store. Someone had finally noticed the lights out and door locked. They got me out. But when I tried to explain about Patricia, they looked skeptical. The power company says it was a grid failure, one officer said. Affected the whole block. The backup generator had a mechanical failure. Just bad luck. But I knew better. Patricia had been planning this, studying the store's systems. The next day, I filed a police report anyway, documenting my suspicions. The officer taking my statement looked bored. Without evidence, there's nothing we can do, he said. Maybe invest in some security cameras for your home. I did exactly that, installing cameras around Theo's apartment where I was staying. I also started varying my routines, taking different routes to work, changing my schedule. But Patricia was always one step ahead. My bank account was suddenly frozen. The bank claimed suspicious activity and needed to verify my identity. It took 3 days to resolve, during which I couldn't access my money. My employer received an anonymous complaint about me stealing from the register. Even though the investigation cleared me, the suspicion lingered. Theo started getting uncomfortable with me staying there. I'm sorry, man, but my landlord's getting complaints. Noise, visitors at odd hours. I know it's not you, but I can't risk my lease. I understood, but it meant finding somewhere else to stay. Every apartment I applied for somehow fell through. Background checks took forever. References couldn't be reached. Applications got lost. Patricia was systematically cutting off my options. Finally, I confronted her. I waited outside her house one morning, making sure to stay on the public sidewalk. When she came out to get her newspaper, she smiled like we were old friends. This needs to stop, I said loudly, hoping her neighbors would hear. I know what you're doing. I have no idea what you mean, she replied calmly. I've been nothing but grateful to you for helping William. The power outage, the bank freeze, the complaints, it's all you. She tilted her head, looking concerned. You sound paranoid. Have you been sleeping okay? Stress can do terrible things to a person's mind. I saw what she was doing, creating a narrative. The unstable young man who couldn't handle the trauma of his friend's death and William's breakdown. I recorded our conversation on my phone, but when I played it back later, the audio was garbled. She must have been using some kind of jamming device. Cassandra tried to help, but Patricia had anticipated that too. Suddenly, Cassandra's husband's job was in jeopardy. Anonymous complaints to his employer, missed meetings due to calendar glitches, important emails mysteriously deleted. The message was clear. Back off or suffer the consequences. I was running out of allies and options. My parents, still grateful for the anonymous donation, thought I was being ungrateful and paranoid. Patricia's been nothing but kind, my mom insisted. She even sent flowers for Mike's memorial. That's when I realized Patricia's true plan. She wasn't trying to hurt me directly. She was isolating me, making me look unstable, just like William had. But where William's grief had made him sloppy, Patricia was methodical. I decided to take a risk. I reached out to William's therapy center, asking if I could send him a letter. The counselor was hesitant, but agreed to pass it along if William consented. In the letter, I laid out everything Patricia was doing. I begged him to talk to her, to make her stop. 3 days later, Patricia showed up at the bookstore. This time, her kind mask had slipped. You had no right to contact him, she hissed. He's fragile. Your letter set back his progress by weeks. Your harassment set back my life by months, I countered. Harassment? I'm protecting my family. You took advantage of a grieving father, played along with his delusions for weeks. Who knows what else you might have done if I hadn't stepped in. I was trying to help. You were enabling him, and now you're trying to turn him against me. The only family he has left. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Stay away from William. Stay away from our family, or things will get much worse. She left before I could respond. That night, I found my car vandalized. Nothing major, just scratches along the side that spelled out liar. The security cameras I'd installed mysteriously malfunctioned during those exact minutes. I was exhausted. The constant vigilance, the daily obstacles, the isolation. Patricia had won without ever doing anything overtly illegal. Everything could be explained away as coincidence or bad luck. I started thinking about leaving town, starting fresh somewhere Patricia couldn't reach. Then Vict, the paralegal who'd helped me before, called with unexpected news. I've been doing some digging into Patricia. Turns out this isn't her first rodeo. What do you mean? 10 years ago, in another state, she had a similar situation. Her neighbor was dating someone Patricia didn't approve of. The boyfriend experienced a series of unfortunate events until he finally left town. The neighbor filed complaints, but nothing stuck. So she's done this before, multiple times. I found at least 3 cases where people who crossed Patricia or her family suddenly had runs of bad luck. Never anything provable, but the pattern's there. This was the evidence I needed. Vict helped me compile everything into a comprehensive report. We sent copies to the police, to William's doctors, and to a journalist Vict knew who specialized in harassment cases. Patricia must have gotten wind of our investigation because the harassment suddenly stopped. No more computer problems, no more complaints to employers, no more mysterious car troubles. It was like she'd vanished. A week later, I got a call from William's therapist. William would like to speak with you. He's made significant progress and wants to apologize. Would you be willing to have a supervised phone call? I agreed. When William's voice came through the speaker, he sounded different, clearer, more like the man I'd known before Mike's death. I'm so sorry, he began, his voice breaking. For everything. The adoption papers, the recordings, the manipulation. I wasn't myself, but that's no excuse. I understand, I said, and meant it. Grief does terrible things to people. Patricia, she means well, but she goes too far. I've asked her to leave you alone. She'll listen to me. We talked for a few more minutes. He told me about his therapy, about learning to live with Mike's loss instead of trying to replace him. He sounded genuinely remorseful and committed to healing. After the call, things finally started improving. I found a new apartment easily. My job at the bookstore became pleasant again, without the constant fear of Patricia's interference. My relationship with my parents slowly healed as they began to understand what I'd been through. But I'd learned valuable lessons. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And sometimes, the most dangerous people are those who believe they're protecting their family. 6 months later, I was accepted to college with a partial scholarship. As I packed my things, I found the photo album Patricia had sent. Despite everything, I was grateful for it. Mike's memory deserved to be preserved, separate from the chaos that followed his death. I heard Patricia had moved to another state to be closer to elderly relatives. William continued his therapy and even reached out to Mike's maternal family, trying to repair relationships Patricia had sabotaged. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The night before I left for college, I visited Mike's grave one more time. I told him about everything that had happened, about Patricia, about William's recovery, about my plans for the future. Your dad's going to be okay, I said to the headstone, and so am I. We're all learning to live with losing you, some better than others. As I walked back to my car, I felt a strange sense of closure. The past year had been a nightmare of grief, manipulation, and survival, but I'd made it through. I'd stood up to William's delusions and Patricia's calculated harassment. Most importantly, I protected Mike's memory from being twisted into something toxic. My phone buzzed with a text from Cassandra. Proud of you. Mike would be too. Stay in touch. I smiled and drove home, ready to pack the last of my things. College awaited, along with a fresh start, but I'd never forget the lessons learned in the aftermath of Mike's death. Sometimes the most dangerous threats come wrapped in concern and family loyalty, and sometimes the only way to honor the dead is to live freely, something Mike never got the chance to do. The scholarship fund in Mike's name had already helped 2 students. William had even contributed, his way of making amends. It felt like the right ending ending to a dark chapter. Not perfect, but hopeful. As I loaded boxes into my car the next morning, my parents stood in the driveway. Things between us remained complicated, but we were working on it. They'd learned hard lessons about desperation and trust. I'd learned about forgiveness and boundaries. Be safe, my mom said, hugging me tightly. And remember, we're here if you need us. I know, I said, meaning it for the first time in months. The drive to college took 6 hours. With each mile, I felt the weight of the past year lifting. William was in treatment, Patricia was gone, and I was free to build my own life. It wasn't the future Mike and I had planned together, but it was mine to shape. My new roommate seemed normal, friendly even. As we unpacked and talked about our majors, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Mike's death. Ordinary young adult excitement. No manipulation, no hidden agendas, just two kids starting college. That night, I called Vita to let her know I'd arrived safely. She was relieved things had finally calmed down and promised to visit during parents' weekend. I also texted Cassandra and Vic, thanking them again for their help. As I lay in my dorm bed, I thought about the journey from that horrible night in the hospital to this moment. It had been a masterclass in human psychology, grief, manipulation, and resilience. I'd learned to recognize red flags, document everything, and trust my instincts even when others doubted me. But most importantly, I'd learned that honoring someone's memory doesn't mean enabling destructive behavior. Mike wouldn't have wanted his death to destroy his father or turn his family into weapons against each other. He would have wanted us to heal, to grow, to live. And finally, after everything, that's exactly what we were all learning to do. The first week of college passed in a blur of orientation meetings and campus tours. I kept checking over my shoulder, half expecting Patricia to materialize from behind a building, but nothing happened. Just normal college chaos. Then my roommate mentioned something odd. Hey, did your aunt stop by yesterday? Some lady was asking about you at the front desk. My blood froze. What did she look like? 50s, gray hair, really friendly. Said she was writing a book about college transitions or something. Patricia, she'd followed me here. I immediately called campus security, explaining the situation. They took notes, but seemed skeptical about a middle-aged woman being a threat. I installed a doorstop alarm and started documenting everything again. 2 days later, my meal plan mysteriously stopped working. The dining hall staff said there was a system error affecting only my account. It took 3 days of eating vending machine food before they fixed it. Then my dorm key card started malfunctioning randomly, leaving me locked out at odd hours. My academic advisor called me in for an unexpected meeting. We received a concerning letter about your mental health history, she said, sliding a paper across her desk. The letter, supposedly from a family friend, detailed my recent psychological struggles and suggested the school monitor me closely. It was unsigned, but I recognized Patricia's calculated language. This is harassment from someone with a restraining order against them, I explained, showing her the court documents on my phone. The advisor's expression shifted. I'll make a note in your file, but you might want to inform campus police about this escalation. Campus police took it more seriously this time, especially when I showed them the pattern of incidents. They promised to increase patrols near my dorm and alert the front desk staff about Patricia. But Patricia adapted. She started using different tactics. My professors began receiving emails from concerned parents questioning my attendance, even though I hadn't missed a single class. My work study supervisor got anonymous calls claiming I'd been stealing supplies. Each accusation required meetings, explanations, documentation. My grades started slipping, not from the coursework, but from the constant interruptions and stress. Patricia was trying to sabotage my education, just like she'd sabotaged my job prospects. I called William's therapy center again, desperate. His therapist said William had been making excellent progress, but Patricia's visits had stopped abruptly after their last conversation about me. He's worried about her, the therapist said. She's not returning his calls. He thinks she might be having her own breakdown. That made sense. Losing Mike, then watching William spiral, now feeling like she was losing control over the situation. But understanding her pain didn't excuse her actions. Vic suggested I file a police report in my college town, establishing a paper trail in the new jurisdiction. The detective who took my report was more thorough than the others had been. This level of sustained harassment across state lines could be federal, he said. Have you considered getting the FBI involved? I hadn't, but Vic started researching. Meanwhile, I focused on damage control. I met with all my professors individually, explaining the situation and providing documentation. Most were understanding and agreed to email me directly if they received any suspicious communications. My roommate, initially skeptical, became a crucial ally after Patricia tried to approach him in the library. She spun a story about being my concerned aunt, but he remembered my warnings and walked away. He even snapped a photo of her without her noticing. Finally, we had current evidence of her violating the restraining order by following me across state lines. The campus police issued a formal trespass warning. If Patricia set foot on campus again, she'd be arrested. But Patricia was nothing if not resourceful. She started targeting my new friends, finding them on social media, and sending messages about my dangerous instability. Most ignored her, but a few distanced themselves, unsure what to believe. The breaking point came during midterms. I was in the library studying when the fire alarm went off. Everyone evacuated, but when we were allowed back in, my laptop was missing from my study carrel. Security footage showed a woman in a maintenance uniform near my spot during the evacuation. My laptop had all my notes, papers, everything. I was going to fail my exams without it. I sat in my dorm room, ready to give up. Maybe that's what Patricia wanted, for me to drop out, come home, let William adopt me to fix everything. That's when Cassandra called. I just got off the phone with William. He's checking himself out of therapy early. He says he needs to deal with Patricia himself. That's a terrible idea, I said. He's not ready. I know, but he's determined. He said something about making things right, about not letting Patricia destroy another life like she helped destroy Mike's. What do you mean? Cassandra hesitated. William admitted something in therapy. Patricia was the one who convinced him to be so controlling with Mike. She said college would corrupt him, that family should be enough. She fed William's fears until he suffocated that poor boy. The pieces clicked into place. Patricia hadn't just enabled William's controlling behavior, she'd orchestrated it. And now she was doing the same thing to me, trying to force me back into their twisted family dynamic. I called the detective immediately, sharing this new information. He agreed it established a pattern of behavior spanning years. Combined with the interstate harassment, it was enough to involve federal authorities. 2 days later, while I was retaking a midterm with a professor who'd graciously allowed it, campus security called. Patricia had been arrested trying to enter my dorm with a master key she'd somehow obtained. The police found my laptop in her hotel room, along with detailed notes about my schedule, my friends, my professors. She'd been planning something bigger, though the detective wouldn't tell me what. William arrived the next day, looking healthier than I'd seen him since before Mike's death, but still fragile. Campus security allowed our meeting in a controlled environment. I'm sorry, he said immediately, for everything. Patricia, she's sick, sicker than I was. She can't let go, can't let anyone leave the family. He explained that Patricia had done this before, to cousins who'd tried to move away, to his own wife who'd wanted to reconnect with her family. She'd systematically isolated and controlled everyone around her, all in the name of protecting the family. I enabled her by being weak, William said, by letting my grief make me vulnerable to her manipulation. But it stops now. He'd already met with prosecutors, providing evidence of Patricia's long history of harassment and control. He'd also started the process of getting her psychological help, though she was refusing to cooperate. The federal charges were serious: interstate stalking, cyber harassment, theft. Patricia faced real prison time. Her lawyer reached out about a plea deal that would include mandatory psychiatric treatment and a permanent restraining order. I agreed to the deal. Prison wouldn't help Patricia, but maybe intensive therapy would. William supported the decision, saying he'd ensure she got treatment even if he had to pay for it himself. With Patricia finally stopped, I could focus on salvaging my semester. My professors worked with me to make up missed assignments. My friends, understanding the full situation now, rallied around me. Even my parents, shocked by how far things had escalated, offered genuine support. William returned to his therapy program, committed to completing it. He sent me a letter a month later, not asking for anything, just updating me on his progress and Patricia's treatment. She was finally accepting help, though it would be a long road. I threw myself into my studies, making Dean's List despite everything. The scholarship fund in Mike's name grew, with contributions from unexpected sources, including some of Patricia's victims who'd heard about the story. Spring semester brought normalcy I'd almost forgotten existed. No mysterious computer problems, no anonymous complaints, no one following me around campus, just regular college life with its ordinary stresses and joys. Vita visited during spring break, and we spent hours catching up without once mentioning William or Patricia. My parents came for Parents' Weekend, and while things weren't perfect between us, we were building something new. The detective called in April. Patricia had completed 6 months of intensive treatment and was showing genuine progress. She'd written letters of apology to everyone she'd harassed, though her therapist held them until recipients were ready. I wasn't ready yet, maybe someday, but not now. Finals week arrived with its usual chaos. As I submitted my last exam, I realized I'd survived not just freshman year, but everything Patricia had thrown at me. I'd protected my future while helping William find his way back to sanity. My summer job at a local bookstore felt wonderfully normal. No one there knew about William or Patricia or the chaos of the past year. I was just another college kid earning money for textbooks. William sent another update in July. Patricia was living in a supervised facility, continuing treatment. He'd sold the family home and downsized, donating much of the proceeds to mental health charities. He was even dating someone, carefully and slowly. I spent August preparing for sophomore year, selecting classes and planning with friends. The anniversary of Mike's death approached, and I found myself thinking about him more than I had in months. On the day itself, I visited a small memorial garden on campus. I'd had Mike's name added to a remembrance plaque there. As I sat on a bench, processing everything that had happened since his death, my phone buzzed. William had sent a photo from Mike's grave, fresh flowers, and a note. Your son is at peace. His friend is thriving. Thank you for saving us both, William. I returned to my dorm room and opened my laptop. The scholarship fund website needed updating with new recipient stories. As I typed, I thought about how different life looked now compared to that night in the hospital.